Welcome to the Recaps channel. In today's video, we'll recap 222. Let's get started. In Grand Central Station, a man confronts a woman with a gun. Another man intervenes, and they face off. The clock shows 2:22, accompanied by gunshots and screams. Dylan wakes up, goes through his morning routine, and hears about a cosmic event on the news. He rushes to work on his bike, narrowly avoiding an accident. Dylan takes the train to his job as an air traffic controller at the airport. He excels at finding order in chaos. One night, Dylan receives ballet tickets from a coworker. He follows his routine in the coming days, obsessed with patterns. At work, as the clock nears 2:22, Dylan oversees the landing of Sarah's plane, but something strange happens. He sees a vision of his dream and realizes time has stopped. He quickly resolves a potential collision, but his coworkers are shocked. Dylan is suspended pending a review. The next day, while passing through Grand Central Station, the clock freezes at 2:22, capturing his attention. At the ballet, Dylan notices Sarah and their glances meet. Later, he finds her in the theater bar, where he discovers she is crying. He comforts Sarah, sitting at her table and engaging in conversation. Dylan offers her a drink, but she suggests going elsewhere. They go on a date at a bar, where Dylan reveals his father was a pilot. During dinner, Sarah asks why he didn't pursue flying, and Dylan admits his fear of it. Sarah shares that she works in an art gallery but aspired to be a dancer. Their date extends late into the night, and Dylan opens up about the incident at work where he almost caused harm to 900 people. Sarah realizes it was her flight and tells him he actually saved her. They leave the restaurant, feeling an instant connection. The following day, Sarah encounters her ex-boyfriend Jonas at the gallery, who still has feelings for her. He mentions the ballet from the previous day, unaware that she's referring to something else entirely. Dylan receives a phone call about his lost wallet and witnesses an accident in front of his building. He retrieves his wallet at the train station and observes various scenes, including a businessman, an embracing couple, school kids with their teacher, and a pregnant woman waiting. As the clock strikes 2:22, sparks emit from it while the lights flicker. Later, Dylan surprises Sarah at her gallery, asking her out to dinner. They opt for coffee in the park instead. Sarah shares her reason for not becoming a ballet dancer, an early career-ending injury. Dylan uplifts her spirits by playing music on his phone and inviting her to dance in the park. They dance together, then spend the night together at her place. The next morning, while lying in bed, Sarah reveals her birthday, which coincides with Dylan's. Suddenly, a car crash occurs outside, prompting Dylan to check the time. Later, Sarah converses with Jonas at work, and he pretends to be happy for her when he learns she's seeing someone. Dylan rides in a cab and notices familiar routines performed by others in different parts of the city, reminiscent of his commute to work. Dylan panics and argues with the cabbie, leading to a collision with a truck. Onlookers rescue Dylan, and he walks away with a minor head injury. He rushes to Grand Central Station and immediately shares his recurring visions with Sarah. Dylan describes the businessman, couple, school kids, and pregnant woman beneath the clock. Explosions occur when it strikes 2:22, causing Sarah to comfort him, possibly suspecting a concussion. Later, at home, water drips on Dylan's hand. He believes everything he witnesses is part of a larger pattern, so he meticulously records his observations on parchment paper. Dylan sets out again, attentively noting details along the way. At work, he confides in his coworker about feeling his sanity slipping and experiencing unexplainable events. His coworker suggests planning something for Dylan's upcoming birthday but is unsure how to assist. Overwhelmed by the perceived pattern, Dylan returns home and rewrites his notes in a more accessible location. He creates an extensive list, including his observations in the station, pondering if it will culminate dramatically. On the night of Jonas's art show titled Convergence, Dylan arrives at the gallery. Before Sarah can approach him, she is whisked away by Jonas. In another room, Jonas presents a light installation depicting Grand Central Station, gradually revealing its elements. Dylan notices the clock frozen at 2:22 and other familiar elements within the artwork. As the clock turns back, the piece changes. Dylan confronts Jonas, questioning if it's all a joke or if Jonas has been following him, believing it's connected to his pattern. Jonas is clueless, leading to a struggle. Sarah, the gallery manager, and others intervene, while a curator mistakes it for part of the show, congratulating Jonas for recreating a historic murder scene at the station. Jonas and others fail to understand Dylan's meaning. Upset, Sarah drags him away, telling him to leave. Dylan apologizes via text, then returns to the gallery and notices Sarah conversing with Jonas, sparking a tinge of jealousy. The next day, he vigorously exercises while listening to news about an upcoming cosmic phenomenon. In his fervor, Dylan breaks his equipment and discovers a hidden parcel in his ceiling beam. Inside, he finds a passport and love letters addressed to Jake Redmond. Unable to reach Sarah, he visits the alternate murder exhibit. The curator explains the story behind the images, including the killer's identity. He shows Dylan a photograph with Jake Redmond's name beneath it. Back at home, Dylan researches the murder, discovering that the woman was killed by her jealous lover. Comparing their passports, he realizes he shares the same birthdate as Jake. Noticing the return address on the letters, Dylan decides to investigate the location to learn more about the woman. He meets Evelyn's sister, who questions his visit upon seeing the letters. Dylan confesses to feeling a connection to Evelyn. The sister reveals Evelyn's story as a talented singer who fell deeply in love with Jake, despite his criminal background. Noah Marks, the detective who died at the station, warned her about Jake. The sister suggests that Noah may have had feelings for Evelyn too, as she had a captivating effect on men. Intrigued, Dylan inquires about Evelyn's presence at Grand Central Station. Evelyn's sister reveals that Detective Marks warned Evelyn about Jake's violent nature and helped them relocate to Millhurst. She gives Dylan Jake's letters. Back home, Dylan notices a correlation between airplane placement on Sarah's landing day and the bodies in Grand Central Station after the murder. He emails Sarah, sharing his findings and urging her to call him. Meanwhile, Sarah discusses Dylan with Jonas inside the light installation. She mentions Dylan's belief in a pattern and Jonas dismisses it, considering such thinking as a sign of insanity. Dylan visits the station to buy a ticket to Millhurst but discovers the line has been closed for decades. However, the board changes, indicating the correct line, and the clock strikes 2:22, causing a chandelier to fall and shatter. Dylan starts filming everything he encounters on his way home while keeping track of time. That night, Sarah visits Dylan, concerned for him. He apologizes, but she senses something more troubling him. Meanwhile, Jonas continues working on his installation, altering the pregnant woman to resemble Sarah. Sarah discovers Dylan's lists and questions him about them. He explains the Evelyn and Jake discovery, but she worries about his mental state. Dylan reveals that the incident happened precisely 30 years prior, coinciding with their upcoming birthday. He shows her the letters, explaining they were written by them in a past life. Sarah reaches her limit and dismisses Dylan's theories, stating that the things he sees and hears are mere random occurrences in a big city. Dylan believes she doesn't understand, but she demonstrates the randomness by linking everyday noises outside the window. Sarah confesses her special feelings for him, but Dylan insists that the woman she's meant to be dies because the man he's meant to be kills her. His solution is to never see each other again and he asks her to leave his place. Dylan, filled with rage, shatters the glass with his pattern list. Later, Sarah visits Jonas, discussing the connection Dylan sees in everything related to Grand Central. Jonas dismisses it as coincidence and suggests Dylan needs professional help. He warns Sarah to stop her involvement with Dylan, fearing for her safety. Jonas proposes taking her away for a few days, believing Dylan wants to harm him. Troubled, Jonas contemplates suicide but notices a connection with the constellations. The following day is their shared birthday. Dylan ponders the patterns while a news report on the cosmic phenomenon plays on TV. Suddenly, he has a profound realization and identifies the only connected elements. The news reveals the phenomenon occurred 30 years ago, and Dylan links everything to the moment of his death. Simultaneously, Sarah and Jonas take a cab to the airport for a trip to Millhurst. Dylan leaves his place and follows the patterns, leading him to Jonas's apartment. Unable to gain entry, he breaks the lock and discovers a collection of large photos of Sarah, a wall of smaller ones, and a notebook with station sketches. Dylan also finds an empty pistol case, realizing Jonas is Noah Marks. He calls Sarah, but Jonas intercepts and convinces her not to answer when their flight is cancelled. Jonas redirects the cab to Grand Central Station, horrifying Sarah. Dylan races toward the station, knowing events will unfold as he predicted. Jonas obtains tickets to another nearby location from the seller, while Dylan encounters the police and seizes a gun. Instead of surrendering, he slides the gun, smashing through a window to reach the station. Jonas presents the tickets to Sarah, who rejects him and no longer wants any association. He calls her Evelyn, insisting she loves him, but Sarah denies it. Suddenly, Dylan arrives and calls out to her, infuriating Jonas, who reaches for his gun. Sarah realizes she embodies the pregnant woman in Dylan's visions, along with the businessman, couple, and schoolchildren. Jonas points his gun at Dylan, declaring that Sarah will never belong to him. In a selfless act, Dylan jumps in front of Sarah just as Jonas fires. Aware that the police are approaching, Dylan turns to face Jonas, mirroring the original scenario where Jake protects Evelyn. At 2:22, the clock strikes, and the police shoot Jonas. Dylan falls to the ground, and the truth unfolds. Jake was innocent, framed by corrupt cops protecting themselves. Love ultimately uncovers the truth. Surprisingly, Dylan survives as the clock changes to 2:23. Finally, Sarah stands beside their baby, watching Dylan, now a commercial airline pilot, from their apartment. Content: Dylan checks his watch, relieved that the patterns have vanished. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share if you enjoyed the video. See you again here on the Recaps channel.